The film opens in a private court set up somewhere in Philadelphia, where the film's leads, Andrew and Joe, are first seen opposing each other. While Joe is more of an environmentalist and is refuting against a construction site, Andrew is in favor of it. The judge shortly dismisses the two from her court, so they lead separate ways. Andrew, a homo, goes to the hospital for his blood test, where his report remains a mystery for the audience. When he returns to his capitalist law firm, he goes straight to his office to talk to his mother, who asks him about his blood report in a concerning manner. However, he conceals whatever the reality is and assures his mother his reports are normal and negative of any diseases. Simultaneously, he's called into the executive's office, where the five owners engage in a compelling conversation with Andrew, after which they announce his promotion to a senior associate level. While everyone congratulates him, one of the old men notices a blister on Andrew's forehead and asks the story behind it. Andrew nervously lies by claiming he was hit by a racquetball. Now, with a bigger promotion comes greater responsibility. Andrew is given a 10-day assignment in which he pours his blood and sweat to get it done. Cut to 9 days later, Andrew is seen getting his friends to conceal his blisters on his face that are now revealed to be lesions, one of the early symptoms of AIDS. He finds the concealer too orange, so he becomes indecisive on whether or not to continue wearing it. There he is struck with shooting pain in his lower abdomen, so his friends take him to a hospital where his lover Miguel comes running out of pure concern. While Andrew assures it was nothing more than a regular upset stomach, the doctor approaches the two and breaks down the procedure of colonoscopy that Andrew will have to go through besides the blood reports for preventative measures, since AIDS is known to spread in mysterious ways. While Miguel makes a big deal out of this and doesn't want Andrew to go through the process, Andrew gets a call from his panicky associates who have misplaced a very important file and now want Andrew's help. As he rushes back to work, the scenes cut to a month later, where we see Joe's side of the story, which begins with the delivery of his wife. As he's celebrating the birth of his baby daughter, he's called into his office because Andrew requires his help. When he goes to work, Andrew shows up, now with increased lesions on his face. Joe recognizes him from their earlier case and shakes hands with him, but as soon as Andrew reveals he's homo, who's also HIV positive, Joe steps back and gives him the odd eyes out of sheer disgust. Now Andrew comes straight to the point, revealing that his company fired him by blaming him for misplacing some important paperwork, whereas it was clear they fired him because of his homosexuality. Hence, Andrew now wants to sue them for the injustice. But no one is taking their case. Despite hearing all this, Joe declares his case having a weak foundation and refuses to help him. The minute Andrew leaves, Joe runs to see his doctor and asks if he can catch AIDS by shaking with someone carrying it. This goes to show how big of a homophobe he is, so the doctor ends up educating him properly on how AIDS isn't something that spreads through touch. Joe still can't wrap up the idea of having encountered a homo and even discusses this with his wife, openly admitting he hates such dudes and finds them feminine. Up next, he visits a local library where he becomes uncomfortable by the gaze of a white man who seems to be disgusted by Joe because of his race. In the same library is Andrew, who's now collecting insights on how to fight their own case. The librarian approaches Andrew and suggests a book that covers the case of a homo from the past, which may be resourceful for him to read. When the people sitting on Andrew's table hear this, they pass down shocking looks and with silent hatred, so the librarian offers Andrew a separate room to continue his business. But when Andrew refuses to be differentiated like that, everyone on his table walks away. This grabs Joe's attention, who now finds himself on the same boat as Andrew, regarding the indifferences and the discrimination they face by the white men. So he tags along Andrew and gives a look at Andrew's content, seeing which he decides to be his lawyer and fight for him in court. Subsequently, he personally approaches the old and raggedy executives to deliver the court notice, which has them aggravated. They single out from the gathering and agree on a note that they fired Andrew because of his incompetence. Strangely, one of them is Bob, who is hesitantly not agreeing to them and is suggesting that Andrew doesn't want drama, but a quick settlement. When the others find something fishy, they straight up ask Bob if he knew Andrew was gay before firing him, but Bob stays silent on the matter. As the executives decide to lawyer up and fight the case in court, Andrew is seen in his family gathering, watching old montages and videos of him and the family. There, he openly communicates about what he's going through and what is about to happen, hearing which everyone shows love and support. The next scene opens straight in Philadelphia Supreme Court, where Joe begins the case with his opening statement being a straight-up accusation at Andrew's former firm, stating that they fired Andrew because of his homosexuality. The firm's lawyer, Belinda, steps forward and falsifies his claim with a counterattack, saying that the executives had no idea of Andrew's personal affairs before they came up with the joint decision to fire him for his incompetence. Joe presents his first witness in the court, who's supposed to be on Andrew's side, but has been secretly bought by the firm behind the curtains. Despite Andrew having fully satisfied him and helped him win his case, the witness lies about Andrew's performance being below average and not too helping for his case. Joe objects to the statement, reminding him that he's sworn to his testimony earlier, but the court adjourns the case and delays the next hearing. When Joe and Andrew step outside the court, they are met with an angry mob of media representatives and journalists who are not in Andrew's favor. The two dodge the angry mob and part ways. Joe, now sitting in a bar, sees the news on the television and realizes how they've twisted narrative to blow the situation out of proportion. Despite him being a homophobe, he shuts up a random white man sitting beside who's foul-mouthing about Andrew. As the case has been escalated by the media, it becomes the hot topic. In their next hearing, they call their next victim, a middle-aged woman named Sarah, who has AIDS and works for the firm. Sarah finally adds some weight to support Andrew's claim by revealing that the day her lesions were discovered by the firm and they found out about her AIDS, they never treated her the same and always passed down nasty looks. One of the lawyers from the firm's side, without any logical reason, asked Sarah a private question regarding how she contracted the disease and if her behavior was immoral the way she got it. Sarah explains that she got infected through a blood transfusion after she lost pints and pints of blood during her childbirth, which doesn't count as an immoral act. But instead, Andrew silently grows nervous because the way he contracted the disease was rather immoral or perhaps even illegal. Up next is brought a witness by Joe, who's also an employee of the firm. She speaks on how she's secretly discriminated against by one of the executives, Wheeler, for being African American and wearing jewelry that Wheeler finds too ethnic. She discloses that all of these hideous and secretively racist discussions about her were confirmed by another employee friend of hers. Belinda intervenes and calls her accusations nothing but a chain of misunderstandings, after which the case is postponed to another hearing. After the case, Joe goes shopping in a grocery store, where a homosexual man approaches him and tries to make a move on him. Joe feels disgusted, so he calls him by homophobic slurs, almost beats him up, and leaves the store. In the next court hearing, the firm presents a witness from their side, their receptionist. She fake cries while accusing Andrew of being aggressive and raising his voice during the misplacement of a complaint file, which he misplaced himself. Joe acknowledges her crocodile tears, so he offers her his handkerchief and uses his tactics to testify in Andrew's favor by asking if she's aware of the executives complaining about Andrew's work performance prior to the file misplacement case. The receptionist declares Andrew a sweet guy and admits that the executives never had a problem with him before. While dealing with the next witness, Joe nearly loses his temper by accusing him of being gay himself and indirectly accuses the firm for setting up Andrew by purposefully misplacing a file. When the court dismisses his argument, he comes up front and capitalizes on the current state of their society against homosexuality, which defines someone solely on their sexual orientation preference. Now, one of the executives, Walter, is called for his statement. Joe questions him about him serving long years in the Navy and wants to know if he ever witnessed homosexuality in a male-packed place. Walter admits shoving down a man's head in the toilet, not because he was homo, but because he was a misbehaved person. Joe twists his words and suggests that he's inflicting the same kind of bullying on Andrew by faking the file case and having him terminated based on that, whereas his icky about Andrew being gay. After the hearing, Andrew is hospitalized briefly as his condition is worsening. Once he's out with a speedy recovery, he throws a party where many homos are invited. Surprisingly, Joe attends the party with his wife, who's no longer disgusted by such an environment, confirming his homophobia to have gone down a notch. Furthermore, He bonds with Andrew and grows closer by getting himself included more in Andrew's life. Now, the day arrives where Andrew is finally called to close his statement. Andrew reveals that many times he wanted to address his orientation and disease about his orientation to the executives, but he always found them joking about such people in such a degrading manner that he could never muster the courage to tell his hard-to-swallow truth. Belinda finally plays her wild card by asking Andrew about the promiscuous affair in the vulgar cinema that he used to go to. Andrew already knew such a day would come where he would have to reveal his truth to Miguel, who was oblivious of his nasty past. Somehow Andrew convinces the jury and Miguel that whatever he had done in the past never clashed or meddled with his work performance, and that he certainly didn't deserve to be terminated for such a thing. Suddenly, his fever spikes, rendering him unconscious. He is immediately taken to the hospital, while the court announces the verdict in Andrew's favor and fines the law firm with $5 million. Joe visits Andrew in the hospital to congratulate him on winning. Once he leaves, Miguel sits down with Andrew for a last talk, through which it's obvious that Andrew has realized that his exit point has come. Following this, Joe gets a call late at night, breaking the news of Andrew's death. The film ends with Joe attending Andrew's funeral with his family, where clips of Andrew from his past are being played in his memory. I am sure you like the story recap. Please don't forget to subscribe for more chilling recaps like that. Thank you for watching.